End zone. The pass is going to be caught by Tennessee.
Tennessee wins!
Caught it by Tennessee. Jawan Jennings. What a turn of events.
Give him 6.
To the checkerboards. Touchdown, Tennessee.
Rock Solid Sports, the only show with a home field advantage for UT Athletics. Here's tonight's host.
Welcome into Rock Solid Sports. It's Wednesday night, and we are here down in the studio ready for what's kind of a loaded show tonight. We have a lot to talk about, a lot to cover, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm Chloe. I'm your host tonight. Alongside me, I have Tucker.
Hey, how's it
He's
going,
producing.
Chloe?
And then on the other side of the glass, we have Dominic and Devin here to talk some, I'm sure, softball for Devin, and I'm sure NBA and a lot of other things for Dom as well. Dom actually helped earlier with this interview that we had with Coach Mark McKeever. He kind of led us through that interview with Coach McKeever. And if you don't know, if you're just tuning in, Mark McKeever is the head coach of One Knox SC here in Knoxville. They just played North Carolina FC this past Saturday. So we did this interview here with him a little bit earlier today to kind of talk about and recap that game and what's coming up for One Knox FC.
Well, tongue twister right there.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we'll just go ahead and play that, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more after. Here's our interview with One Knox SC head coach Mark McKeever. All right, we are joined by One Knox SC head coach Mark McKeever. It is Wednesday, June 7th, and we're so glad to have you here as per usual again this Wednesday, Coach.
Well, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, let's jump right into things. So last match was 1-0 lost against the league leaders in North Carolina FC, and it was certainly a match that seemed to have its fair share of big moments and maybe even some controversy. How'd you feel about this one?
Yeah, still trying hard to get over it, to be honest with you. Still not sitting well with me, and not because of anything other than I don't feel as though that we played to our potential. I didn't feel as though we defended very well, or I would say defended, but I didn't feel as though we pressed very well, and all the things that we've done at training, I don't think were applied as well as the players can apply them. And then on the ball, there was a little bit of fear almost. I didn't feel as though we played in the positive, fluent manner that we usually do at home. So still a little bit disappointed. In saying that, I feel as though that probably we were a 5 out of 10. I feel as though we played to probably 50% of our potential. And we played to 50% of our potential. Didn't play very well. And obviously the league leaders have only beaten us 1-0. And we've had chances to get back into the game and potentially go on and win the game as well with the chances that we had. We probably had the better of the chances. So having played so bad and still had the better of the chances, again, it just adds to the frustration, the would have, should have, could have scenario. But it's certainly a learning experience. Obviously, our objective is to get better from game to game as we go on, and I don't feel it happened this week, so a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, and what do you think might be the key to sort of moving on from this one and getting better at, I guess, applying the team to the situation and just executing better? Because this North Carolina team, they certainly seemed really happy to play a very strong mental game with bleeding off the clock and going down a little bit frequently. Just seemed a very hard team to play from a mental perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we call that game management, right? And obviously that the teams that are up the league have a way to manage those minutes at the end of the game, which are very valuable, and we talk about that in our own camp as well. Do you have the ability to push through the gears if you're 1-0 down? Do you have the ability to go from second gear to third gear really, really quick to chase the game? And then when you are ahead of the game and you're trying to see it out, do you have the ability to manipulate situations? So, it's always part of every team's game plan to be able to manage it. And I don't blame North Carolina whatsoever. I think every team is trying to do it. The problem is when they're allowed to. That's the issue that we have. It shouldn't be allowed, and especially when we're talking about key points before every single game, and it becomes redundant. And it's it's the key points and the elements that the referees talk about before the game are the exact points that they didn't referee, which is more frustrating, right? You're talking to the coaches about it, but you're unable to apply it yourself in a game. So why are you expecting it from coaches and players if you can't apply it as a human being yourself? It's almost like a do as I say mentality, not as I do, which is fine. We don't blame them. The referees didn't score the goal against us, right? And the referees didn't stop us scoring the goals. So it's a small portion of it. They allowed North Carolina to run the clock down, but we never blame a referee for not being able to score a goal. We're at home. We should be scoring 2 and 3 goals, and we should be exciting our fans. And then we've lost. I was ready to say a bad word there, but I'm not going to say it. But we've lost a really, really poor goal where we've defended the box and we have 7 versus 2. Nobody should be able to score in a 7 versus 2 scenario. It should not happen, but it did. So, and it's soft goals that we've lost all year long. So I don't think North Carolina were better than us. I feel as though we let ourselves down.
You joked a little bit about the weather being really warm last time. How was that for you? And it's probably going to keep getting warmer here. I know it's probably going to be about 84 in your next match on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it was hot, and it makes it harder to cover the ground, right? But the leveling factor is it's not just one team that has to play in the heat. It's 2 teams. So what's hard for us is hard for the opponents as well. So it's up to us to manage that better mentally and physically than our opponents. So yeah, it probably was hot, and it made it a little bit more uncomfortable for the players. But I feel as though we have strong players with strong mentalities as well that can push through those moments and keep working and grinding it out, regardless of too hot, too cold, too wet, too dark, too light. We don't have the autonomy to choose the weather. We can only control the controllables that we control every single day. So that's our job, to control the controllables. And I don't feel as though we've done that well enough.
Yeah, and looking forward now to the road trip out to Colorado. This is a team that has been somewhat quietly good and sits at 4 on the table despite having only played 8 matches. And having played them before, how are you preparing your team for this contest?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the reset mentally and physically. I think we're already there. We've done our game review. We've gotten over, obviously, the defeat, and we're back at training and working hard every day. So now, again, just more of controlling the controllables, trying to work as hard as we possibly can, prepare a little bit since we've already played them. We know the type of style that they frequently play. We know more about their tendencies, more about who does what in certain positions. So hopefully that gives us a little bit of a little bit of bite going into the next game. My hope is that they want to spark the fire again, because North Carolina put it out, or we put our own fire out. So we've got to spark it again. We've got to reignite it again. So hopefully the passion is there to go and say we can get 3 points on the road against Northern Colorado.
Yeah, and more of a point of curiosity here, but the team has already had one big road trip out west to Fresno. But what does the travel schedule usually look like for these away fixtures that are so far out there?
Yeah, Fuego's the worst one because of the connecting flight, so Fuego trip is like a 13-hour, 14-hour day to get there. And then you play the next day, and it's like I think it was a 4 p.m. kickoff. So the turnaround, and then we got up at like 4 o'clock to go to the airport the next day. So the consequences then in the back end of that were extreme. And then we had to play Forward Madison immediately after it. So the preparation for this one is a little bit, it's a little bit easier on us. Not to say that the game will be any easier. It's a really good opponent, right? And probably one of the best teams in the league, in my opinion. But it's an early bus journey to Nashville, but then it's a direct flight to Colorado, and then there's I think an hour bus journey after it. So it's this will be an easy one in comparison to Fuego. We'll be able to go then and train. So we'll leave, I think, at 7:30 in the morning. We'll catch a late morning flight. Obviously, with the 2-hour time change, we'll arrive early afternoon. We'll go straight to the field and we'll do a little bit of training. Obviously, the altitude comes into to factor. So, that'll be that could be a stumbling block, but we hopefully can overcome that. And then at that point, it's hotel and dinner, and then prepare for the game the next day. But again, it's a 7 o'clock kickoff and not a 4 o'clock turnaround like the Fuego one.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it'll be a lot nicer than that Fuego schedule.
Yeah.
And then onto the more fun section of the interview, I always like to add here at the end. Huge news for U.S. soccer today. Messi to Inter Miami has been confirmed. I'm from the U.S. and so I love U.S. soccer, and this is a huge deal. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I think these things have been happening throughout the last couple of decades. You've had the David Beckham situation where David Beckham came over, the Ibrahimovic. So I don't think it makes US soccer better. I think it probably gives Miami a few more fans and Messi a few more dollars in his pocket, right? So I think what it does is it creates a perception of it being better. And the perception, allows other people outside the sport to come into the sport and support the sport. So from that aspect, it's great. I think, obviously, the bigger picture, taken away from Messi, would be the World Cup that's coming to the US, and so that's something I'm really excited about. And what that can have, the impact that can have on the dynamics of soccer in this country are absolutely massive, probably more than what Messi's going to do. But listen, Messi, for me, probably the best player that's ever existed on planet Earth. And so to see him here in the US is wonderful. We want that opportunity. But, I think that what I would like to see is some of those, maybe not the superstars, but some of the bigger players coming to the US to grace us with their presence. I don't know if that'll ever happen, where if they're in the peak of their career, would they consider coming to the US? I think that changes the quality, right? It changes the quality. If the quality goes up, then I feel as though the fan base goes up. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting really excited for that World Cup here coming up. I've been dreaming about that for a long time. And another sort of aspect, too, that I always think about with U.S. soccer is relegation is such a key part of soccer. And do you think that maybe the U.S. league system will ever adopt it?
Yeah, I mean, there's conversations, really strong conversations going on right now. I don't know if I can tell you legally what's going on behind the scenes, but the conversations are happening, right? And there's strong conversations. I think the first thing that has to happen is the promotion relegation. But the promotion relegation, for example, if you have an MLS team that's a $250 million franchise getting relegated into a championship that might be a $15 to $20 million franchise, that's a big jump, right? But the other side of that is the USL One franchise that might be $5 or $6 million to a $15 to $16 million. That's more a realistic jump for promotion relegation. So I feel as though that the USL are having those strong conversations, but I don't know that it'll ever happen with the MLS just because of the dynamics of the amount of money that each business spends.
That definitely makes a lot of sense. And I'm hoping that maybe one day it'll get all the way to the MLS, but I think you got it right on the money there. I think it makes a lot more sense for it to start happening in the lower leagues first. Any questions from you, Chloe?
I'm good. Yeah, this has been a good interview. I like your fun parts, Dominic.
I always try and make it a little bit exciting because I know that the fans around here definitely want to hear a lot about global soccer too, not just what's going on here in Knoxville. So
right.
Thank you very much, Coach. Always a pleasure to interview you. And best of luck in Colorado.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate the support as well. Hopefully next week we're having a different conversation. We're getting 3 points as opposed to losing them.
Absolutely. Good luck, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
See ya.
That was head coach Mark McKeever, head coach of the One Knox SC here in Knoxville, who we interviewed just a little bit earlier today, me and Dominic. And Dominic, as he does always, kind of took the lead on that interview over there, and he did ask about some big time soccer news happening, as we were just talking about a little bit earlier before the show. So that was a really fun interview. Dominic, anything you wanted to say?
I just always love interviewing Coach McKeever. He's such a fun guy to talk to, and it's always great finding someone else to talk soccer with, especially here in the States. And he's got a wealth of knowledge, so it's been really great interviewing him.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to learn a little bit more about soccer as we do these interviews because like I said, Dominic definitely takes the lead, but I still enjoy just every week getting, even if I'm not asking the questions, just kind of listen what he has to say, because
go ahead.
That's really it. Just listening what he has to say and what's going on with the soccer team here in Knoxville.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm really intrigued by this whole Lionel Messi development that's happened, because now I'm not a huge MLS guy, but think about in Nashville they have Nashville SC. In a couple of years, think about you could see Miami play there, and you could have a chance to potentially see Lionel Messi, who is regarded, at least over the last decade and a half, maybe longer, as the best soccer player in the world, play in your city, which is incredible to think about.
Yeah, it's really insane, and I'm definitely going to try and make it down to at least one game to see Messi while he's here stateside, and they might end up playing this season. I don't know how soon Messi plans on.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to be in Nashville for a couple of years, when Nashville will be playing Miami in Nashville. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him whenever he gets there.
Yeah, huge contract too. I mean, unprecedented as well. He's getting part of the Adidas kit sales that are generated by his name, which is a little bit unheard of with the current agreements. And then he also has a stake that he can buy in the club when he retires, and the whole bunch of details like that swayed him to join the MLS as opposed to going to one of the Saudi Arabian teams.
Yeah, isn't there some kind of also like TV deal, like either with Apple or something like that, Apple TV deal as well?
Yeah, they're cutting him in on all the revenue generated by the Apple TV subscriptions to the special MLS system that they have with Apple TV. So he's getting a boatload of money to come here.
Yeah, really interesting story. Definitely, for sure. Huge news coming out of soccer. We got to point it out. I mean, we're going to talk about, some college stuff here in just a second, but we always have to highlight, what's going on all over the world. So definitely, as always, super fun talking to Coach McKeever, and we thank him so much for speaking with us this week. We're going to take our first break of the hour. We'll be right back to talk some diamond sports, softball, and baseball. And we'll see you on the other side. Stay tuned to Rock Solid Sports on Volunteer Radio, 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
The Rock thanks Fieldhouse Social, the Wednesday home for Rock Solid Sports, for their support. American craft food, beer, and cocktails, plus a 25-foot big screen at University Commons Way. Fieldhouse Social welcomes sports fans and others alike to enjoy dishes like the citrus marinated chicken, grilled Faroe Island salmon, and smoked ribs. FieldhouseSocial.com or on Twitter and Facebook.
The Rock thanks the One Knox Sporting Club soccer team for their support. One Knox plays all of their home matches at Regal Soccer Stadium on campus, and the season runs into October, with matches against Memphis, Chattanooga, Lexington, and more USL League One opponents. Tickets, including UT student tickets and game day info, is at oneknoxsc.com. And WUTK is proud to be a media partner with One Knox. Rock Solid Sports will be keeping up with One Knox soccer all season long. One Knox SC. We are one.
The Rock thanks the Hill Bar and Grill, 1105 Forest Avenue in the Fort, for their support. The Hill offers a view of the Sun Sphere and World's Fair Park, as well as Burger Mondays, Taco Tuesdays, Wing Wednesdays, and hosts Rock Solid Sports Friday nights at 7. TheHillKnox.com or their social media platforms.
The Rock thanks the One Knox Sporting Club, USL League One soccer team, for their support. One Knox plays all of their home matches at Regal Soccer Stadium on campus, with the next match happening Saturday night, June 17th, when One Knox battles Charlotte Independence at 7:30 p.m. Tickets, including UT student tickets and game day info, is at oneknoxsc.com, and WTK is proud to be a media partner with One Knox. Rock Solid Sports will be keeping up with One Knox soccer all season long. Go One Knox!
90.3 The Rock, Knoxville's original music pioneers.
Knoxville, be sure to tune in Wednesday nights from 8 until 10 p.m. for The Alternative, sponsored by Bliss and Tory Mason Shoes on Gate Street and at Westtown Mall. And Bliss Home at the Gallery Shopping Center, also sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill Bar and Live Music Venue in the heart of Knoxville's Old City. The Alternative features 2 hours of the best in Americana music from the station who first brought Knoxville music by bands from back in the alt-country days, like the Jayhawks, Uncle Tupelo, Steve Earle, and Jason and the Scorchers, to 90s Americana like the V-Roys, Whiskey Town, Lucinda Williams, Sunvold, and others, to modern-day Americana musicians like Molly Tuttle, Tyler Childers, Casey Musgrave, Sturgill Simpson, Billy Strings, and the Punch Brothers. You'll also get classic Americana like Johnny Cash, the band, and Emmylou Harris, and there's always Patsy Cline at 9. Tune in Wednesday nights at 8 for The Alternative. Sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill, Bliss Home, and Tory Mason Shoes, and only on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Volunteer Radio receives support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2023 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smoky Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports covers Smokies Baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com. Link up at WUTKRadio.com.
Welcome back into Rock Solid Sports. It is Wednesday night, and we just finished up with that interview with head coach Mark McKeever of One Knox SC. Once again, so glad to have him on the show. And now we're going to kind of transfer over into some college sport. I couldn't think of the word.
No, I love that you said transfer, actually, because that's...
Okay. That, no pun intended. Never mind. I meant to say that it was actually intentional. I couldn't think of the word transition, but yeah, a transfer, if you will, womp womp, over into some former Vol, I guess, news before we jump into Diamond Sports. I'll just get right into it. Olivier Cumwa transfers officially to Michigan basketball over Baylor and West Virginia.
Yep.
And yeah, former Vol for you there. Obviously, if you're familiar with Vol basketball, you know who he is. And he's going to Michigan basketball now. So definitely kind of the big news for, I guess, Vol Nation as of today is that this is happening. We knew he was transferring a few months ago after basketball season, but now we know where he's going.
It's been quite the saga because, he entered the portal, then I think he put his name in the draft, and then he took his name out of the draft, but then he didn't commit right away. We thought, okay. Yeah. It was, I think, maybe late March or early April when he entered the portal. We're in June now, so he's had quite a bit of time to mull this thing over, and ultimately he went with Michigan. And it's funny because he didn't actually play in that game against Michigan in the tournament because he had hurt himself in that South Carolina game and was done for the season in February. But now he gets to go up there with Juwan Howard. We'll see how he does because, here when he was at Tennessee, it's okay, he's just going to appear every 8 or 9 games and go off for 20-plus points. But then you're just not going to see him for 2 straight weeks. It's just weird with him. Maybe Juwan Howard will make him more consistent. But then again, those are 2 guys that are consistently inconsistent.
Yeah. Absolutely. So maybe he'll become more consistent. Maybe Michigan will have a good night whenever he has a good night, which is kind of what happened here.
That's what happened.
So
that is
we'll
exactly
have to
what happened.
Yeah, it's been an interesting saga for Michigan as well because, of course, they no longer have Hunter Dickinson, I believe he
Kansas.
Yep, he transferred to Kansas. And they were supposed to get Caleb Love. But now he didn't transfer to Michigan, correct, because of some kind of academic issue. So he transferred somewhere else. I believe it was Arizona, but not 100% sure. So Michigan's been trying to get big-time transfers, and obviously they need a huge size replacement for Dickinson. Obviously, Incom was not a center. He's a different position. He's a forward, but he still brings them some size that they absolutely need. And Juwan Howard... definitely an interesting coach. Definitely not my most favorite of the college basketball coaches just because of incidents that have happened.
Yep, that's how Hardwood Hot Takes got rolling.
Oh, really?
The
Because
incident
of
with him and Greg Gard, that was our
Yep.
first ever episode.
Really? That is fantastic. Because yeah, I just think, just a personal opinion of mine, I just don't think that kind of stuff is allowed, especially in the realm of college coaching. But
Well, it isn't. You got
No,
fined.
it's a
and
felony.
Suspended. Yeah.
yeah, okay, but that I feel like maybe more harsh punishment should have happened. But that again, that's my opinion. But in any case, in Kamwa, he does fill a need for the team. It does make sense. We'll see. Yeah, I think Tennessee's got some really great players coming up. I think Toby Owaka is going to have a huge season next year for the Vols. This just further opens the door for him to have a lot of success.
Yeah, and you know what this tells me is that Kamwa gets good grades because Caleb Love couldn't quite get there into Michigan, but Kamwa did, and like you said, he adds size, but I don't think he adds that great inside presence that Michigan is kind of sorely lacking now without Dickinson. And it's a good transfer for them, but I don't think it's winning them anything. And I don't know if it's even that good of a fit for Kamwa either. I mean, hopefully he's getting money out of it, and more power to him. I mean, I'll always support players who transfer out under good terms because, I mean, we didn't really need Kamwa here anymore. Just one of those bigs that has a great shot and has some great footwork, but no real inside presence, has a really hard time being felt down low.
Yeah. Like I said, definitely the biggest news from today. We'll see how he does. I mean, I gotta root for him, like Dominic said. I don't wish anything bad on him.
I don't either. I hope he does well, but I'm just not sure it's going to happen.
Yeah.
With just a combination of him and the inconsistent nature of Juwan
As you
Howard's
can tell,
Michigan.
like the tone of this conversation, we're kind of like, I mean, go off, I guess,
Yeah.
but whatever
Good for
happens,
him.
happens. Moving on into baseball here, of course. I mean, Hattiesburg, Mississippi is where they're going instead of Knoxville, Tennessee. The NCAA chose Hattiesburg over Knoxville, which, I mean, I don't know how to feel about it because it's not like I'm surprised, but it's not like I'm not disappointed.
No, I'm not surprised by the decision necessarily. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we can sit here and speculate all day as to what it was, right? Because there's obviously the guys on the committee that had ties to Southern Miss, and then, you know, there's the fact that they seat more people. There's the fact that their coach is retiring after the season. Maybe there's some sentimental stuff there. But, I mean, overall, you just look at this thing and it's like, okay, the weather is supposed to be great here in Knoxville this weekend. And, you know, Lindsey Nelson would have been packed if that were the case. But down
With
there,
a block party as well.
down there, that is a swampy part of Mississippi. There's not much going on down there. You're about an hour and a half away from the beach. It's not like you're, you know, going to the beach or anything. It's not like being in coastal Carolina where you can go to Myrtle Beach, which is like 10 or 15 minutes away. No, you're far away from the beach. And then also, it's supposed to be low 90s, and I think there's a good chance of storms that's rolling in down there in Southern Miss this weekend. So, I mean, you're looking at potentially long rain delays, and that would not be a factor here based on what we've seen from the forecast.
I mean, I'm a little bit more relaxed. I don't want to say relaxed, but, you know, we talk like all the time on the show about how the Vols have not done good playing away. And the only thing is, of course, it is their opponent's like stadium. It's their house. It's all that stuff. But I mean, after this weekend that they had in Clemson, I'm not sure that's going to be I hope that's not too much of a problem for them after that. So we'll just have to see.
Yep, yeah. If only the Penn Quakers could have won that game the one time cheering for the Pennsylvania Quakers, then probably Tennessee would have. In my opinion, I believe Tennessee would have hosted Penn if it came down to that. But it probably also has to do with the fact that Southern Miss, they won their conference championship. And they have a few more wins than Tennessee, I believe. They've got 3 or 4 more wins than Tennessee right now. So
yeah, they also have a beautiful Walmart down there.
But the metrics though favor Tennessee. Like if you look at all the stuff that the committee judges or what they judge on, I mean, Tennessee is higher in RPI, which is like the metric in college baseball, and that was thrown out the window. So I don't know what
it probably just comes down to conference title and also you're right, coach.
But the strength of schedule. Are you seriously going to sit here and tell me that the Sun Belt Conference is a more difficult conference to play in than the SEC? I don't know. It's weird. they can have it if they want it, I guess. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us common folk.
Yeah, and then there's that controversy too, where for a little bit it sounded like they were only going to sell tickets to their season ticket holders, which
that's still the case.
I heard that some Vol fans were getting tickets.
Yeah,
I don't know how,
but that's the thing is some. It's like there were only like 600 available. Obviously, a good bit of that is going to go to players' families, and then season ticket holders can get theirs if they want theirs, and then you can pick up the crumbs if you really want to go down there to Hattiesburg. Is what it sounds like, but doesn't look like many Tennessee fans are going to be able to make the trip just because of that.
It's a weird situation with their stadium too, because from my understanding of what I've read so far is that their stadium, they like use expansion bleachers to make it fit more people, and
that's what Tennessee does.
Yeah, and I've heard that they're actually not going to be using it for the Super Regional. I don't know if that's true, but there's just a lot of weird stuff around this regional, and I mean, good luck to their head coach who's retiring or whatever, but Tennessee really deserved this one, and the NCAA seems to have a very clear bias against the University of Tennessee that I think we're all quite familiar with. It's something about East Tennessee, man. People just don't like us here. It's weird.
Athletics right now is like putting in a plug. They're like, dang, if we only had a hotel right outside of Neyland in an entertainment district, they would have picked us. Just to wait, 2025. Whenever, when is it going?
Yeah, it's coming soon. I don't know how soon, but soon.
I don't think anyone knows.
We will not be here. Dominic, you might be here, but at least you, me, and Devin, Chloe, we will not be here by the time this thing is built.
I don't know if I'll be too happy to be here. I mean, as a student, you're not really getting much out of that experience, especially students don't have all that much money. So
keep G10 open, please.
Yeah.
It's staying open. They're just building on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds hazardous, but
it does sound hazardous.
Anyways, moving on to the actual game itself, what's going to be going down this weekend. How do we think the Vols are going to face up against Southern Miss? Because obviously Southern Miss is a good team, like we just said, but the Vols are, the Vols beat Clemson, which I don't think any of us truly in our minds, not our hearts, our minds predicted. So how are y'all feeling about this one?
One thing I will say about Southern Miss is this is now the second year in a row that they have hosted a Super Regional, and they ran into defending national champion Ole Miss last year, did not score a run against Ole Miss. Ole Miss just came in there and absolutely pounded the Golden Eagles. So I think Tennessee, you just gave them a big chip to have on their shoulder now. They're upset that they're not hosting the Super Regional. So now they're going to go down there and they're going to be really upset and they're going to want to prove a point. And I think that's a lot of extra motivation for Tennessee to go down there and do their best stuff. So it would not surprise me at all if they made it out of this one, maybe even in 2 games.
Yeah, this is one that could definitely go either way, of course. They're both so closely matched. They're both on a roll right now. They're both on a hot streak. I mean, Southern Miss lost their first game in the regional, but then they won 4 straight. And they generally looked pretty good, and their offense has really been clicking. So, their offense, their hitting concerns me. But at the end of the day, I just think Tennessee has so much more talent than Southern Mississippi at the end of the day. But I also think with Southern Miss's coach retiring, they know that any game could be his last game coaching. I think the team is also going to play a little bit harder for their old ball coach. So it's one that can go either way, but I'll pick Tennessee to win it.
Hey, Devin, you know what happened the last time Tennessee played a retiring coach in a Super Regional?
I was about to say that. Let's send him out like LSU.
Sent Paul Maneri home straight back down to the Bayou after hanging 15 runs on him.
I was there.
Well, hey, that bodes well. And you mentioned already Ole Miss, the connection. We've been talking about the connections between Tennessee and Ole Miss, how Ole Miss last season, they started 5-10 in SEC play. Then they turned it around. Then they went and won the World Series. Now Tennessee started 5-10 in SEC play. They've turned it around.
It's uncanny.
They're playing Southern Miss on the road.
I was doubting it.
There's too many connections.
I was doubting it a little bit at first just because Tennessee doesn't have quite as much returning experience as that Ole Miss team had. But, now that they're starting to actually show it in the NCAA tournament, I'm beginning to believe it more and more.
Yeah, I honestly really think this team has a shot, just like that Ole Miss team did. And I'm really with Tucker here. I think that anytime you give this Tennessee baseball team a reason to have a chip on its shoulder, you're not going to like the end result. I mean, these guys are always a team that's going to pride themselves on being the villains and ruining the other team's day with their absolutely incredible baseball performance. And just the show that these guys put on is incredible. Especially, I mean, we're all still recovering from that Clemson game because that was something else. That was some of the best baseball I've ever seen played. Just entertaining down to the last second. I really can't wait to see Tennessee go as far as they possibly can, and I think that they're gonna mop the floor with Southern Miss.
Well, but no matter what happens, there's one SEC team from Tennessee that's in the Super Regionals, and there's another SEC team from Tennessee that
fell on its face,
did not, and the Omahags not going
fell
to
on their
Omaha
face too.
either, so
Very hard.
Arkansas, that was
demolished by TCU.
That was something special.
One dude had 11 RBIs in one game.
Yeah.
2 of them on 2 Grand Slams. 8 of them on 2 Grand Slams.
Yeah, you can't let that happen. I mean, it's a little bit beyond embarrassing for Arkansas at this point. A school that really claims and prides themselves on being the SEC baseball school. When I mean, what do they have to show for it?
They love to make it all the way up to the finish line. They don't like to cross that finish line, though.
They like to check out the finish line and make sure it's an okay finish line for their competitor, and make sure
give
that
it a good look.
Yeah.
Look at it with a nice little magnifying glass, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, a few weeks ago, did we think that come this time we'd be talking about Tennessee potentially being in the World Series right now? I didn't think so.
No.
I didn't think they'd be in the Supers. I didn't think.
I kind of believed. I mean, I always tend to be a little bit delusional when it comes to Tennessee athletics, just because I love them
We
all
all
so
are a
much.
little.
Well, Dominic is a particular one.
I embrace it, baby.
If you've listened to any podcast that we have done together, you will know that Dominic is always picking Tennessee to go out there and win the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I just love our guys and I trust them. And, you know, the baseball team especially, I feel like you can actually give more credit to because of what they've been able to do under Vitello and just the level of success they have had, especially after, you know, not being one of the better SEC baseball teams and then just coming a little bit out of nowhere and just being a phenomenal ball team.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is, you know, this what day does that start? I'm sorry.
Saturday.
That's what I thought. This weekend in Hattiesburg, but it's okay. And yeah, we'll be giving you. I'm sure we'll talk about that again on Friday briefly before it happens. You know, the next day. We got a transition right now. It's already 7:40. That's wild. Softball, Lady Vols knocked out of the World Series, Women's College World Series by Florida State. I was really hoping they were at least going to make it to the second game. You know, they had to win 2 games against Florida State in order to make it to the championship series against Oregon. Oh my goodness. Against Oklahoma, who had just beat Stanford earlier that day. So this was a 1-5 loss. And the Lady Vols, I mean, you can't be disappointed.
Yeah.
They've had a wonderful season.
Really, really
but
incredible.
I still, you know, was just really hoping that, you know, they would make it. But you have to they're playing with the best teams in the country. And they are one of the best teams in the country.
Yep.
So it's bound to happen.
They just ran into a couple of buzzsaws in a row, right? Because, you know, Oklahoma, I said this on Monday, and it's absolutely true. It's their world, and everybody else is just living in it for college softball. And it's been that way for a minute.
But, you know.
But, yeah, so they ran into them, and then, of course, they win that game against Oklahoma State. And then Florida State's a team that regularly visits Oklahoma City as well. And, you know, they just couldn't handle them after the first inning. So, I mean, 2 really good teams right there. But, you know, I will not discredit anything this Tennessee team's done because I don't think anybody really expected them to go this far.
No, and they've had such an incredible season, and they've had 2 of some of the best players in all of college.
Yeah, I was about to say,
softball.
think about all the iconic players on this team, like just this season alone.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But one thing I am disappointed in with Tennessee's run in this World Series is they worked so hard all season long to get to match up against a team like Oklahoma, and instead of starting either Ashley Rogers or Peyton Gottschall, both are so elite, they start a freshman pitcher against the number 1 ranked team who's been dominating all season And sure, through the first cycle, Oklahoma's hitters were thrown off, but then the second time around, they had figured Pickens out, and it just became a disaster for Tennessee. And I truly believe the whole team just gave up in that matchup. But you take a look at how Oklahoma played against Stanford in the next game, who did start their elite freshman. They had a freshman pitcher as well, but Kennedy is absolutely incredible and one of the best pitchers in the country. And Stanford was almost able to pull it out against Oklahoma. So to me, that was disappointing. Tennessee, I kind of understand the reasoning behind the thinking of, oh, well, maybe we'll just accept that we're going to lose this game, and then maybe we'll get past Oklahoma State and Florida State, and then we'll play Oklahoma in the championship, and then we'll bring out our ace pitchers. I just didn't like that thinking. I thought Tennessee should have just said, we're just going to give them all we got, right here and now, because they lose that game. Then you got to win 2 against Florida State, and that was just too hard of a mountain to climb. So I am disappointed by that decision making from the Tennessee staff. But at the end of the day, Oklahoma's a machine, and Tennessee was really, really great. Just not quite enough, but it was still an incredible season nonetheless. It'll be interesting to see where the team goes from here on out, because there's going to be some huge replacements to fill, unfortunately, for the team next season. But they've got a lot of promising freshmen and sophomores, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dominic.
I'll just keep my sentiment pretty brief. I mean, I'm really proud of the softball team. They've been incredible and such a fun watch all season long. It's just a disappointment that they weren't able to, get a little bit further. But I mean, all you can really ask of a team is to make it to that final level, because the competition is so good. It's so hard to come away with the championship, that if you're consistently getting to that final level, the College World Series, it's enough of an accomplishment for me. I'm really proud of this team.
Yeah, for sure. And that choice, to have Carlin Pickens pitch that game, that's something that definitely had all of us like scratching our heads for sure. But I mean, if I could just sum it up in review, I mean, Ashley Rogers alone, like if just she was leaving, this would just be the hardest thing, to replace. But I mean, it's gonna be really difficult, moving on. But I'm so. What do you say?
I was just gonna say, unfortunately, McKenna Gibson who really broke out as a superstar. This year, she's only a sophomore. Lair Boutte is only a sophomore. Katie Taylor, I believe, is a freshman.
She's a freshman, yeah.
So, and she's been getting better and better as the season's gone on. So, we'll just have to. Julia Kutsoyanopoulos is going to be back.
What about Brockenborough? She's a sophomore.
Brockenborough's a sophomore. Yep. So there's a lot of good players back. It's going to be hard to replace Kiki Malloy and Rogers, though. Those two are such superstars. But Peyton Gottschall, I believe, she'll be back for her senior year next year too. So, and again, Pickens is only a freshman. She won SEC Freshman of the Year. So, so she'll be back as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff returning.
And this is Pickens is awesome. She's definitely improved so much, and I know she's going to as well. But just like it's, we talked about the other freshmen pitching for Stanford. It's just for, to have her pitching against Oklahoma, that's just a lot, even though she is such a good pitcher. And you have 2 other pitchers. I mean, we were just stacked just with 3 pitchers with, I don't, with how blessed we were with how great they were. So I'm super excited, hoping for Gottschall to have a great senior season, and we'll see how things go from there. I'm sure they'll be back, but it's been really fun getting to watch them play over at Sherry Park Relief for sure this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And now this championship matchup between Oklahoma and Florida State. I mean, Florida State, of all the teams that could beat Oklahoma twice, they're probably the best team.
Yeah, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's going to be exciting to watch. Oklahoma's got it, I think. So we'll just have to see. Still exciting, though. And we do have to take a break. We are running out of time so quickly. We got to be back to talk pro sports. Multiple things we got to talk about. We'll be right back on Volunteer Radio. Tell your smart speaker, play 90.3 The Rock.
Volunteer Radio is supported by Fieldhouse Social at University Commons. Hosts a Wednesday night rock solid sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft food, beer, and cocktails. Featuring UTN Pro Sports on digital TVs around the restaurant 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. FieldhouseSocial.com and their Facebook page for news and more.
Volunteer Radio receives support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2023 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smoky Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports covers Smokies Baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com. Link up at WUTKRadio.com.
Hi, this is Sam Bean from Iron Awana. You're listening to UT's College of Rock, WUTK.
The Rock thanks The Hill, 1105 Forest Avenue, back corner of the fort, for sponsoring and hosting Friday night Rock Solid Sports at 7 p.m. The Hill Bar and Grill is the campus destination for wings, beer, and sports. The Hill makes every day an occasion, from Burger Monday to Wing Wednesday to Fried Fish Friday. Each week has a new flavor at The Hill. TheHillKnox.com or their Instagram page at The Hill Knox.
Volunteer Radio receives support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2023 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at Smoky Stadium in Kodak. It's a 9-inning vacation. The next series takes place against the Pensacola Blue Wahoos Tuesday, June 20th through Sunday, June 25th. WTK's Rock Solid Sports will keep you up to date with Smokies Baseball Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 p.m. SmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
The Rock thanks the One Knox Sporting Club soccer team for their support. One Knox plays all of their home matches at Regal Soccer Stadium on campus, and the season runs into October with matches against Memphis, Chattanooga, Lexington, and more USL League One opponents. Tickets, including UT student tickets and game day info, is at oneknoxsc.com. And WUTK is proud to be a media partner with One Knox. Rock Solid Sports will be keeping up with One Knox soccer all season long. One Knox SC. We are one.
Knoxville, be sure to tune in Wednesday nights from 8 until 10 p.m. for The Alternative, sponsored by Bliss and Corey Mason Shoes on Gate Street and at West Town Mall. And Bliss Home at the Gallery Shopping Center, also sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill Bar and Live Music Venue in the heart of Knoxville's Old City. The Alternative features 2 hours of the best in Americana music from the station who first brought Knoxville music by bands from back in the alt-country days, like the Jayhawks, Uncle Tupelo, Steve Earle, and Jason and the Scorchers, to 90s Americana like the V-Roys, Whiskey Town, Lucinda Williams, Sunvold, and others, to modern-day Americana musicians like Molly Tuttle, Tyler Childers, Casey Musgrave, Sturgill Simpson, Billy Strings, and the Punch Brothers. You'll also get classic Americana like Johnny Cash, the band, and Emmylou Harris, and there's always Patsy Cline at 9. Tune in Wednesday nights at 8 for The Alternative. Sponsored by Boyd's Jig and Reel, Bliss Home, and Corey Mason Shoes, and only on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Welcome back to Rock Solid Sports. It's Wednesday night. I'm your host, Chloe. I'm here with Tucker, Devin, and Dominic in the studio, and we are back to talk about some pro sports news. First of all, we will be talking about, of course, NBA Game 3 coming up tonight, NHL playoffs happening, Stanley Cup finals, all that sort of stuff. But right now, MLB, there's some breaking news in that area, and not really a final score. Something else, Tucker, you want to take
not
away?
A final score at all. Game's not even happening, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Yankees and White Sox, and I believe Tigers and Phillies have been either canceled or postponed tonight because of the air quality conditions up there in the Northeast because of the Canadian wildfires. The smoke is spreading down south. In fact, I want to say it's even getting a little hazy here in Knoxville from it. I don't think it's it is obviously not to that extreme, but, you know, it's crazy to think that we got games getting canceled and shuffled around because of something like this.
Yeah.
And it's because of Canadian wildfires, right?
Yeah, Canadian wildfires.
I'm pretty familiar with this type of stuff.
Yes, you
personally.
are.
Yeah, being from the West, Idaho, we have our fair share of fires. I remember growing up as a kid, there'd be summers where I couldn't even falls, it'd get all the way into about September, and there would just be so much smoke from wildfires, especially in those drier years around 2016. And we couldn't even practice for soccer. It was so bad. So, I mean, those wildfires are no joke, and it's definitely unfortunate to see it affecting professional sports. And it's definitely new. I feel like for this side of the country, as opposed to out west, where it's just about every couple summers.
And how devastating as well, just a wildfire in general. So, yeah, that was crazy. The video Tucker was showing me before this, and
you're supposed to be looking at the
NYC.
Hudson River, and you can't see 3 feet in front of you. Seriously.
Definitely super concerning, super crazy. Beyond sports news for you there. That's what's happening. Moving on to NBA, Heat, Nuggets, Game 3 tonight at, I just forgot.
It's in Miami.
It's in Miami, but it's at 8:30 p.m. in just a few minutes here. The Nuggets won the first game. The Heat came back, won the second game. So it's 1-1 for those guys, and they're playing again tonight at 8:30. Definitely super. I mean, they've made it exciting so far. Super exciting series to be watching. So, I mean, any thoughts, guys, on this Game 3 or just the whole series in general?
It's fascinating that Miami was able to get in there and take that second game, because obviously that first game, the Nuggets kind of ran away, and it felt like, the home court advantage, the altitude, that's going to play a big factor. But of course, they got through and took the second game. And I think tonight the line is somewhere around Denver -2.5, -3. It would not surprise me at all if Miami found a way to win this one. I wouldn't argue that they would win both games. I think the Nuggets are competent, or good rather, not just competent enough to win at least one game down there in Miami. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see a split series here by the time they go back to Denver. But, who knows? Maybe Miami does take both games. I wouldn't think that would be the case, though.
What's amazing is you never know who on this Heat team is going to step up and just come up super clutch in the fourth. Like in Game 2 was Duncan Robinson. And who knows who it could be in Game 3? It could be Strus, could be Gabe Vincent. Maybe if Tyler Hero ever actually plays again and actually gets into a Heat uniform as opposed to all the other outfits he's been wearing on the court side there. But you never know who it's going to be for the Miami Heat. I'm glad that they won Game 2, made this an interesting series, because after Game 1, everybody was worried, oh, no, this is going to be a sweep. This is going to be, Nuggets versus Lakers all over again. It's going to be a sweep. Denver's just too good. Miami can't come back from it. Sure enough, they're resilient. They fight back just as they've done all season long. I truly believe this series now can go either way.
Yeah, I'm honestly shocked that Miami was able to walk away with the win in Game 2, especially because when you think about how these teams play, you just feel like Denver has more depth, yet Miami had multiple players with 20-plus points with Jimmy Butler, Adebayo, and Gabe Vincent. Just a lot of production coming off that Miami bench and then just all around the team. And, I think they kind of found a way to sort of slow down the Nuggets, at least there, by forcing Jokic to have to do most of the point scoring himself. I mean, Jamal Murray only 18 points in that one. It's a really interesting series, and I think the fact that Miami's doing well, I think a lot of it you have to credit Spoelstra. He's a great coach, but I just don't see a way where Miami wins it all. And I was sitting there thinking the same thing before Miami even won one game, but now it's all into question. This Miami team really seems to keep proving the doubters wrong, and I don't know if I can confidently say anymore that the Nuggets will win this. So I think it's going to be a great series, but I'm thinking Denver still edges them out in the end.
Yeah, as someone who's not really, I'm not rooting for either of them. I was too excited to see, the Heat keep it interesting and come back and win that one. So I'm excited that this will be exciting and not, not a sweep as well. It's always more exciting. It's the finals. I'm going to be tuning in. Yeah, for sure.
Expect a good series.
No, this isn't I'm not going to make the comparison. Georgia TCU, but
yeah, not at all. It's not that at all.
As a Tennessean, I always have to connect everything to college football. Just kidding. Anything else on the NBA before we go into NHL?
I did see that Chris Paul was released by the Suns.
Yeah, dude was waived, which is unreal for a man of his status and talent. It's a decision that I find incredibly just shocking, but it does make sense. I mean, Chris Paul wasn't really working out for him, and the Suns were moving on from just a season where they really felt like they should have had it all. But I feel like teams in the modern NBA are just far too quick to blow things up when things aren't working out.
Well,
Oh yeah, look at the what was it, the Brooklyn Nets, like completely.
Yeah.
Well, that was
That
justified.
unique,
But the thing
that
with
was justified.
the thing
That
with
was a
Chris
unique
Paul to me though is that he is a guy that has just been he's like the Matt Ryan of point guards right now, right?
Yeah.
He's just not able to finish. Like he can get you a good regular season, he can get you into the playoffs. He's not going to do anything in the playoffs. That's the thing.
And he
Scott
isn't-
Foster might be in his way, but he's not doing anything in the playoffs. Period.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Paul just looks like Ricky Rubio out there in the playoffs. He's good, but he's not great. And I mean, I love Ricky Rubio. Don't get me wrong. Seeing him in the Jazz uniform was some of his finest days. Some beautiful work from Ricky Rubio there. But as much as I love random NBA players, Chris Paul is a household name, whether you know him from State Farm or not. And that's a player you really expect more out of. And he was my favorite player when I was a kid, when he was playing for New Orleans, largely because I loved those uniforms. But back when they were the Hornets, but you know, Chris Paul, I don't know if he'll make it out of the league with a ring.
Yep. I mean, well, probably not unless he, joins a team that's. He probably won't make it out of the league with a ring if he's one of the star players at this point. What I find interesting about the NBA now is how coaches share, like the majority of. I feel like coaches have the brunt of the blame. And then they're always the ones that get fired first. When really today there's so much load management and so many star players sitting out too frequently, in my opinion. So it's like really the coaches get the blame,
Well, they're not
but
sitting
the players.
out. They're not sitting out in the playoffs, and that's what the coaches are getting judged for.
Yeah, that is true. But just throughout the whole regular season, I mean, this regular season helps set up for the playoffs. I don't know. I feel like coaches get blamed a little bit too much in today's game. That's my take on that.
Yeah. So wish we had more time. Definitely good talking about NBA, good talking about those other things, and good talking about baseball, of course, and talking to One Knox SC head coach Mark McKeever. We'll be back on Friday. We'll maybe get some NHL in, Panthers, and the Knights playing tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So we'll be talking about that, the result of that, and hope to see you or hope to have you tuning in then. And thanks for tuning in tonight from all of us here at the studio. Chloe, Tucker, Dominic, and Devin. We'll see you guys on Friday. You're listening to Volunteer Radio 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock. The Alternative is up next.